Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday night edition of the Around the Ropes radio show. Now, guys, we're seeing this whole thing now in the world of professional wrestling of this crossover to mainstream sports. Obviously, the news came out recently about WWE going to ESPN, but we always talk about WWE going to mainstream, but we have to talk about AEW. And AEW, a couple of years ago, decided to start coming out with trading cards. Obviously, we know WWE did it, but AEW kind of joined the pack with that. And they did it through a company called Upper Deck. And joining us this evening, we've had him on before, friend of the show, the one, the only, Billy Cielo. Billy, welcome back to the show. How you been, my friend?
Hey man, great to be back. Love it.
Absolutely, I'm glad to have you back. But we're seeing this crossover now with from wrestling into the mainstream sports. Where do you think all of a sudden this came from? This all of a sudden this crossover.
Back in the day, like I saw, I'm not young, okay? So, I've seen this crossover before, and things just kind of come in waves. And I remember waking up early in the morning and watching, my Saturday morning Saturday morning cartoons and seeing wrestling. I remember Cyndi Lauper singing with Captain Lou Albano, you know, at, from the Goonies movie. There's just more and more crossover, and now you're seeing guys like MJF starring in Happy Gilmore 2, stuff like that. So I think wrestlers are becoming more and more popular. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're doing a really good job marketing themselves. There's a lot more platforms out there, like the platforms back in the day, like I was talking about. You had music videos, you had cartoons and stuff like that. Now with social media being as big as it is, I think you're seeing a lot of the crossover because of the popularity of the wrestlers that they're getting through social media.
No, I get that, and it's interesting because, like, especially from your area with the trading cards, you know, obviously I have sort of a background in sports cards because due to my father being a sports collector for years, so I've seen cards going all the way back to the '60s, and I noticed there was a time period, like mostly through the '90s, where cards weren't really being valued that much, and you really weren't seeing a lot of them. And now all of a sudden we're like sort of like really seeing like this boom now almost.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody remembers. I came from the National, and people were buying those, boxes where you could get, Hogan rookies and stuff like that. So there was a period of time where it was getting kind of popular, and then in the '90s, and I would almost say it's for a lot of sports. There was a period of time where, you know, they didn't make as much as they're doing right now. Trading cards has exploded in the last like 3 or 4 years. I think COVID was kind of like it was getting bigger, but I think COVID during that time kind of really jump started it to where people were going back, looking at their old cards, the nostalgia, like that Hogan card became very popular because the nostalgia of it. The people remember collecting that. They're going through their old boxes, they're looking at stuff, and they're like, "Oh man, I used to collect this, and now I have this disposable income. Like maybe I should get back into collecting cards." And as that's happened, you see more and more, trading cards come out. From our competitors and from ourselves.
Now, do you think we're going to get obviously the value of the cards? You're not going to see cards nowadays like back in the day when you saw cards like Willie Mays and the bigger names. Those were coming in at a couple of $100 a piece. I mean, do you think we're ever going to get back to a point where you see a card that's going to be valued that much?
I think you're seeing it now, and there's different reasons for it. One of the big things nowadays is people are getting their cards graded. So, say you get like, a first card of a popular wrestler. If you get that card graded with PSA, with Beckett, with CGC, like whoever you grade your cards with, if you get that 10, that 10 grade, that just adds value to it. And another thing that's changed throughout the years is just the scarcity of specific cards. Like you see a lot more parallels of cards where, before it was just like you bought a set and you finished the, 100 card set. Now those 100 cards have parallels numbered to, there might be a red parallel version of it. Then there might be a gold numbered out of 50 and a green numbered out of 10 and all this other stuff. So the parallels and the scarcity have really added value, along with really cool things like having the the wrestlers sign the cards, or we have them sign, labels which we apply to the card. So it's kind of like they're getting an autograph card of their favorite wrestler, and that's kind of brought value to it also. And then when you add both the scarcity and like the autograph or memorabilia on a card, that's where you're going to see those cards going for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
You brought up graded cards, and this has been a question that I've always wanted to know. Is there really a difference between a grade of 9 and a grade of 10?
You know, there's I think there's one company right now that actually uses like electronics and stuff like that to figure out grading, but for the most part it's humans that are grading the cards, and they'll look at the cards, they'll look at the surface, they'll look at the centering, they'll look at the corners and the edges and all that stuff. So there's usually like four different criterias that you look at for a card. So that 9, everything might be great, but it might just be a little bit off center, or there might just be like a little ding here, a little ding there. And a lot of times, the grading companies, they won't grade it past a certain point if one of those criterias are lower. So there are some companies, I believe, like Beckett, will give you like okay, this was a 10 on centering, a 9 on this, a 9 point, different gradings. And there's other companies that'll just be like, you got a 10 or you got a 9. And it honestly, a lot of it just has to do with human perspective. But these people have been looking at card after card after card after card, so they kind of in their head have a system of what they believe is a 9 and what they believe is a 10. Now that might differ from me to you. If you were, I put it this way, but I'm going this way.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
that might be different. Like, you might have a different opinion of what is good centering, or what corners or edges or surface gets a 9 or a 10. But for the most part, I believe these people are trained. They are, obviously they don't just get hired and like go ahead and grade cards. They're trained. They're kind of shown, okay, this is what you look for. This is a 9. This is an 8. This is 10, like that sort of thing. So I'm sure there's a bunch of guidelines that determine what cards are. But yeah, there can be a difference. Now, like I said, that difference of opinion you hear quite often nowadays. People are cracking open the slabs and resubmitting it, and it might have been a 9 the first time, and then they resubmit it and it's a 10. And if someone wants to pay the money to take that risk, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. You're just hoping that you either get a different grader, or maybe that grader has a different opinion that day. I don't grade many cards, to be completely honest with you. I put my cards in top loaders. I have big 3200 count boxes. I have shelves that I bought, like one of those garage shelving things, just because I had so many cards that I put in my living room now. And that's how I store my cards, because I'm a collector. I'm a hoarder. I enjoy collecting. I rarely will, if I get a card I really like, it's staying in my collection. You're not going to see it again.
No, I get that. Like I said, obviously I've been seeing baseball cards my entire life, and wrestling cards and everything. And I've even had it now where I've had friends of me, knowing of the background that my dad has, have come to me and said, "Oh, well, what do you think of this card? Or what do you think of this card?" And I kind of look at them. I go, "Well, it looks okay." They're like, "No, no, look at it closer." They're like, "I'm like, I look at a card. I'm like, okay, as long as there's no dents on the edges and the picture in the middle looks somewhat okay." I'm like, okay, it looks good, but I agree with you though about the grading, because I feel like with grading, when you see a card graded, because I've seen it happen a lot of times, where also you'll see two cards, the exact same card. One will be not graded, and then one will be graded. And because it's graded, also it's like, well, the not graded card is $40, but the graded card is $600.
Yeah.
It's
You know what's crazy too, and I was just having this conversation with some people in the office. What's crazy is if it doesn't get that 10, there's definitely a dip. There are a lot of times where an ungraded card will sell more than a 9, because people are buying that, well, it could be a 10. So they'll actually pay more for a card that is not even graded, than they would pay for a PSA 9, just because, oh well, it's not a 10, and like, well, this might have a chance to get a 10. So it's again, I get it, but I don't get it, sort of thing. Like, I understand, it definitely adds value, if you get those good grades. I just don't grade stuff very often. I already spent enough on cards. I don't need to spend more money on grading it.
No, and I believe me, I totally get that. But obviously, going back to the whole thing with Upper Deck right now in AEW, just to them people, who may not know, how did that start? Was that you guys approached AEW or AEW came to you guys?
Man, I had been begging for a wrestling set to do any kind of wrestling set for years, and I think I told you the story a few years ago.
Yeah.
I was even asking him like, can we get the license to the TV show Glow? Like, I build like a retro set of the TV show Glow on Netflix. I'm like, I want to build a wrestling set, and we're always looking for new licenses. We just in the last year, I think we got the DC license. We get the boys set is coming out next week, so like we're constantly looking for new entertainment licenses because there's really like or 4 or 5 main sports, and then there's wrestling and UFC and whatnot. So you're constantly looking for stuff, and we had some, I guess. Uh, uh, the higher ups internally had some relationships with some of the people from AEW, and they were looking to get a trading card set. And I got a phone call like, Billy, can you come up to the Jordan room? The Jordan room is like where the president has his meetings, so he gets the best meeting room, obviously, with Jordan. But so sitting there, I'm like, oh, am I in trouble? Like, I don't know what's going on. And I walk in, and there's a couple wrestlers, other people, just basically like, so yeah, we're talking right now. What do you envision? What do you think you could do for this? And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, let's start. Want to do this? And kind of AEW idea of like what we do, creating what possibly we could do for them, and they were all on. And many times these investors that I've worked with, they're
Billy, I think you kind of cut out a lot towards the end there. I caught the gist of what you were saying, but like towards the end, when you were saying about
was
the
I
rest,
was I little.
yeah, with the wrestlers part is where you kind of cut out. So
Which part was?
when you were working with the wrestlers directly, the part that we got
Oh, when
was
we were working with.
yeah, was you were in the meeting in the Jordan room, which again I still think that's a phenomenal name for a room.
Mhm.
Um,
Right?
and
There's
then
Jordan stuff all over the room too.
oh, and then you were saying about working with the wrestlers, and then that's where you kind of cut out there for a second.
Okay, gotcha. So what's been this AEW has been one of the best licensors that I've worked with in many of the things that I build. They're always, you know, they they want this to work just as much as we do. So they're willing to go above and beyond for us whenever we're looking for stuff. We've got a set coming out pretty soon called SP Game Used, where we have a lot of like match used memorabilia from official AEW matches, whether it's the mat, whether it's turnbuckles or banners and stuff. And I think one of the biggest things that got a lot of noise. We went to All In Texas, and I was working the booth, and then afterwards we kind of got to sit there and be like, hey. Can we get that? Can we get that? And I'm talking to one of their guys, and I just go, I got a question for you. I go, do you have the fork? And he puts this smile on his face, literally just pulls out of his back pocket and oh, I had a fork here. Oh, I was gonna make it look cool. Have my lunch fork, and pulled out the bloody fork, and it still had blood on it. I'm not even joking.
Oh,
That Hangman opened Moxley
Moxley,
with,
yeah.
and I have a picture of me with the fork because I was so excited about it. He literally is like, "Here you go." And immediately we were on the phone with our brand and with AEW, trying to figure out how can we get this into a set ASAP. And our design team flipped the design in one day, and it's now going to be a redemption card in SP Game Use. We got a few other things in there too, but that's the one that people are really excited about, is the bloody fork from All In. But it's just like a kid in the candy store. The funny thing is, I was just like, "Can I get the chain that Swerve, hit him with?" And they're like, "Ah, that might be a little too big for a card, might be too heavy." and I was just kind of bummed out. And that's when I was like, "Do you have the fork?" But like we're just sitting there picking stuff out, and they're great. They get it. They understand. They help us. They help market it. Like you've seen, if you watch some of the shows, you'll see like upper deck stuff throughout the shows every once in a while. So I thoroughly enjoy working with them. And then when we got when they called me up to the office, I was ecstatic. I was like, great. I don't get to build the glow set, but this one's maybe a little bit better.
Let me ask you this now. Working with the wrestlers now, working with AEW. Are there some wrestlers that you're sitting there, as a fan? Obviously, when you're at work, it's a little different. But when you're sitting there putting the set together, and you're like, "Holy crap! I get to build his card or her card."
Well, I think it's kind of known among the AEW card collecting community. I'm one of the biggest Ty Mello collectors. I'm a big fan. Her and Sammy are great. I've met them multiple times. I always give them a stack of cards that I personally like. I don't get any cards. I go out and buy them myself, and I'll always pick up some of their cards just to give to them. They don't get the good ones, but they do get some nice ones. So yeah, that's kind of cool. There was one bad internet. Can you hear me?
A little bit. You cut out there again for a second.
I purposely had you do this. I purposely had you do this while I was at work because I get much better internet service here. Um, but no, Time Out, my favorite one that I've gotten to make cards for. But just meeting and seeing some of these people, like MJF, like Sting, like Cope, Mercedes, Tony Storm's great. I went to WrestleCon in Vegas, and I literally, like, my marketing department gave me a whole bunch of boxes of cards, and I went to every wrestler that was an AEW wrestler and was like, "Hey, I got some cards, I got some packs for you." I go, "Do you mind taking a picture with the pack?" They were all about it. They were all super excited. I didn't have to pay for anything, although I think I did pay for some stuff for my own personal collection to
Yeah.
get signed, but I went in everyone's line, and they all were super great. They took pictures with the cards. If you look on our Facebook and Instagram, I think you can go find all the images. Those are pictures that I took just at WrestleCon, hanging out with or talking to the wrestlers.
No, I believe me. I definitely see it, and I definitely hear it in your voice. Also, with the excitement and everything. It's like you get to. It's not really work when you get to sit there and be like, "Oh, here's a Sting card. Here's a Culp card." It's like you get to be a kid again.
Oh, for sure. Like for a couple years, I would go. I would go on my own dime just to help out with the fan fest and with the booth or whatever we did because we used to go to Double or Nothing. And I got a friend that lives in Vegas, so I'm just like, I'll get $100 flight because they're cheap from LA to Vegas, and fly out there and help out and kind of get to do and see and talk to some of the people. And now I've gone there enough times where I've helped out with some of the signings. I have talked to a lot of the people out there and gotten to see and talk to a number of the wrestlers, and it's definitely like I was that guy. This, you'll laugh at this. So I one of the guys that does the signings for us, our talent acquisition team, he always just calls me Mark. He always calls me Mark, and he knows it bothers me because when it's my job, I act very professional. The only one they know I'm allowed to that take a picture with is Ty because they know her and Sammy are my favorite. But uh, constantly, I used to be that guy at the hotels. I used to be the guy at the airport. I used to be the one that I have that awkward picture with Mercedes from back in the day when she didn't like the taking pictures with people. I have one of those. But when it's work, I don't mess around. I went to Dynamite. I think it was 300 and Collision 100 in Ontario and California. And afterwards, we kind of walked out the back, and you see the trucks. I was with some friends, and Thunder Rosa's out there, and she's taking pictures with fans and signing stuff. And they're like, "Billy, get a picture." I go, "I can't." I go, "This is work. Like I'm going to see these people 2 weeks later in Texas. Like I can't." I can't I do it. So now it's a work relationship, but they some of these like Brody's a huge card collector, so we'll sit there and just talk trading cards. When we had the Marvel license, he would always ask for some Marvel cards. Now we have the DC license, and he's asking for DC. Like he's a big card collector, so some of these people are really excited about their trading cards. I like Sky Sky Blue. It's funny. She like looks at all the cards. She's all excited. Like her mom would buy the boxes because she's on the 2024 box, I believe.
Yeah.
And so her mom would be buying the boxes. And then so we had the most recent, the 2025 set, and she's just like, oh, I don't want to ever sign this card. And it was because she's wearing the outfit that she wore when she got injured. So I'm just like, okay, note to self. One, I went directly to our team was just like, hey, make sure we don't make cards of her wearing this outfit because she doesn't like it at all. Because obviously it brings back bad memories, but I also know never to bring those cards to get signed myself.
Let me ask you this though. You know, let's say for example, you bring up programming with Sky Blue now. Let's say you bring a card, to a wrestler, and they turn around and be like, "Well, Bill, I don't like the photo for whatever reason." Because it was already published, can you then turn around and get them to change it, or how does that work?
That's a great question. I remember one time when we were at Double or Nothing, Jamie Hayter literally comes up to me, and this is after I think our second set, and she's like, um, "I have a question," because she's got a little accent, and I'm like, "I know what you're." I literally said, "I know what you're gonna say," and she's just like, "I was just wondering." I go, "I know what you're gonna say." She's like, "Who's in charge of the photos that you guys do on the cards?" I go, "I know." I go, I literally, I'm like, we have not been very nice to you with the photos that we've picked for your cards. For some reason, she just has these weird facial expressions, or she's doing something weird or whatever. So, all the photos are actually approved by AEW.
Okay.
So before we get something, they decide whether or not. Now we've tried to, like, we've gotten feedback from some of the wrestlers before when we were at a signing one time. Some of them are like, hey, could you try to maybe do a different angle, because this kind of, like, I'm trying to avoid like looking like big here or like this and that, and I'm like, nope, understand. So we have stepped away from, we try to give them, and we have a much bigger library than what we started with. Like, they've given us much more access to more photos, and because of that, and we have people. Here's the other thing is, since we started building this in the last couple years, we've had some people change positions and whatnot, and the gentleman that works on the checklist, our project manager who goes through all the grids and looks at everything, and our brand, they're AEW fans. Like, before, it wasn't like, hey, we got this new license AEW. Okay, what are we gonna do now? I was obviously a wrestling fan, so I could build stuff and whatever, but and give direction, but I would say we probably didn't pick some of the best photos sometimes. But now we have people that care about AEW, that enjoy AEW, and want to see the best cards and product out there. So we pay much more attention to detail on stuff like imageries and images and stuff like that. So um, have we? Have I had wrestlers try to once the card's printed, we can't change anything. Like,
Yeah.
it's done. And again, AEW does approve everything that like, it has to go through their approval. Like, there's sometimes where, like, we can't picture some like wrestlers with belts, because sometimes the belts get outdated and they don't want to show outdated stuff. They're really particular about stuff being outdated, and uniforms. I think, excuse me, one time we had like the sky blue, the one where she wore the white outfit, just one time, and it's just like, that's a year old. Like, we ended up changing the photo on it because it didn't even look like the normal sky blue outfit, so we just kind of switched it up and did something else.
No, and I totally get what you're saying. Trust me. And so now, when you guys submit the stuff into AEW,
Mhm.
what is usually the turnaround for them to, like? Is it like something where, okay, you submit it on a Monday, by Friday they'll turn around to you guys and say, okay, it's good to go? Like, what's the turnaround for something like
It
that?
really depends on what we're giving them. Like, for a full set, they have to go like, We do it in stages too. Like so photos, they can kind of go through photos and look, and it might be a few days. For like copy on the back of the cards, that takes a little bit longer because they want to make sure everything that we're writing is correct. A lot of times they'll actually like kind of make corrections on some of the stuff. I remember the first year, uh, Orange Cassidy's cards, they were actually written by somebody else from AEW, and that's why those cards are amazing because it really uh, uh, that's what Orange Cast like it. What's the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for? Not replicated. It represented. That's the word. I knew it began with an R. It represented Orange Cassidy. But things like that, they know we have to get done quickly. Like the match dated moments when we do those like special like 6 card or 8 card sets that are done directly after a pay per view that then we sell the next week. You know, then it's maybe like a day turnaround on those. But it just really depends on what aspect of the card they're reviewing because we do stuff in different waves. Like we build the designs. Are they happy with the designs? Okay. Then we build then we put the images in there. And then are they happy with the checklist? Like Metal Universe that just came out a week or two ago, that was actually slated for 2023. So we actually
oh,
had to do a complete overhaul on the checklist to make sure that it was up to date because there were a number of wrestlers that were already no longer with the program or they have a completely new persona or something like that. So, we had to kind of do some heavy lifting there, but yeah, there's just different segments of the approval process.
I get what you believe me. I totally get what you're saying, and just to hear the whole backstory of how this whole process is amazing. I got one final question for you. I'm gonna put you on the spot. This can
Uh-oh.
be wrestling or sports. You said you're a collector.
Yes.
What is one card that you have that you are extremely like? You sit there and you go through your cards. You sit there, you're like, I can't believe I still have this card.
Oh man, because there's some like old ones that I've had for years and years. Like there's a card that I traded an Austin Matthews Young Gun for, which now is a pretty expensive card, but it was like a Steve Eiserman Supreme Swatch of an All-Star jersey, and it's absolutely stunning. That being said, I just recently made couple big purchases, and as I mentioned, being a big Ty Mello fan, I actually purchased I have two. So I purchased one of the gold PMGs, so it's a 101 from Metal Universe, and then I also purchased the Golden Treasure 101 auto of from Allure. So
Oh
those
wow!
are probably two of my biggest cards. But that Eiserman card's really good too.
I believe me, I get that. I totally get that. But again, Billy, I'm glad we were able to get you back on. It was nice
Oh,
to catch up with you. I know it's been a while.
yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime. I'm excited. Like I mentioned, we got a few products. We had Metal Universe that just came out that everybody's loving. You're gonna see SP Game Use in the future, and then I think around the beginning of the year, you're gonna see SP Signatures. We've been kind of stingy with our autographs, and so I think the autograph collectors are gonna be happy with Game Use because I believe that's an auto per box, and then the signatures is an auto per pack also.
Absolutely. And I definitely would love to have you on when those come out to kind of, and what I'm gonna try to maybe do is try to get the pack beforehand
Okay.
so I can try to we'll talk about that offline about that because I
Yeah.
actually have an idea to run past you on that one. But again, Billy, I'm glad to have you back on. And I definitely, like I said, definitely want to have you back on again, for more
Nope.
promotional support. Before we let you go,
Sounds
obviously, guys, you guys can get Upper Deck cards at any local convenience store. You go to Walmart, go to Target, they're there. Billy, where can the fans connect with you on social media?
where can what? Sorry.
Fans connect with you on social media.
Oh, it's just Billy Cielo on Instagram. I don't Facebook. I'm a little more private. I don't accept too many people there, but on Instagram, it's Billy Celio, Celio, and you'll see a picture like a silhouette picture of some guy with a beard. It's so funny because it looks like me, but it was actually a sticker that was on a light pole in LA. and someone sent me the picture. It's like, this looks just like you. I was like, you're right. And so sent me the picture, and I use that as my profile picture on Instagram. I think it's funny.
Absolutely, guys. Again, if you're at your local Walmart or Target or wherever you get your baseball cards, definitely go pick up some AEW cards. They have great stuff. But again, Billy, I'm glad we're able to have you on, and we'll definitely have you on again soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, John.
All right, guys. For Billy, I'm John. This has been the Round the Ropes Radio Show. We'll catch you guys next time.